today we are here with Uncle Jay and Joyce to discuss the topic of scams in Singapore. So we have all been working together on Genlab's Sandbox program, where groups of seniors and youths work on bite-sized social impact projects by creating resources of content that benefit the larger community. So Uncle Jay and Joyce, would you both like to share more about yourselves briefly?
Ladies first, Joyce.
Hi everyone. My name is Joyce, and I work in the Senior Activity Center, looking after the seniors. And I very much like to protect the elderly from being scammed, and I love to look after them well. Thank you.
Well, I'm Jai. I'm an ex-senior police officer. And in this interview, I'll be sharing some of my experiences with regard to crime and scams. The unfortunate thing is this, that during my time, I was in the police force in the 70s, in the 70s, and we were not that technologically advanced. So most of our work was human based, actually going to the scene, real investigation, and the reliance on technology was not that high compared to what it is today, right? And during that time, we didn't even have this police cam, the police camera that is installed throughout Singapore. So it was a bit of a difficult. Anyway, we managed it, and we dealt with the crime. And at that time, scam was not that prevalent. We call it cheating under Section 420 of the Penal Code. That cheating was more prevalent, and we used to refer this case usually to the Commercial Affair Department to investigate. Right? And as we go along, I'll be sharing with you a lot of these related experiences in regard to crime and scam in general. Thank you.
So scams have been a considerably prevalent crime among Singaporeans recently, and they do not discriminate. In fact, they make up the bulk of today's crime rate in Singapore. So Uncle Jay, would you like to explain a bit about how scams work?
Probably I will start with Joyce. She has been a victim of a scam herself, and I will appreciate if she can share her experience of how she was scammed. Right?
Yes.
Joyce, please.
Sure. Oh yeah. So I used to bring my children to do some part-time acting shows, and there I met a lady. She told me she's dealing with children. She will send them for auditions and then have them work with TCS to become part-time artists, and she asked me to sign on my children. Then I said yes, okay, I'll sign on. So I signed on 3, and she says each child I have to pay a fee of $120. So I paid for 3, and I paid $360. So and she asked me to go home and wait for her call. When the next project is on, she will call me. So I waited like 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. There was no news. So I called her again, and then she says, these jobs don't come easily, so you have to wait, you have to be patient. So again, time goes on. I still didn't get to hear from her. So in the end, I reported the case to the police. And until today, I still didn't get back my money that I paid to her. So to me, this is a scammer, and to me, I've learned a lesson, and next time not to be so silly to sign on deals like that. Yeah.
Yep. Now the point is, you say sign on. Did you sign any documents?
No, I didn't sign, sorry.
Did you receive any receipt for your payment?
No, I didn't receive.
Still indication that something is not right.
Right, yes.
And one of the other thing in scam is, especially those scammers, they urgently want the money. To the extent that, never mind, I come, I pick you up, you go to the bank, take out the money.
Yes.
And I believe the same thing happened to you, go to your bank and take out the money.
Yes.
And give it to me.
Yes.
So these are indicators that something is not right.
Yes.
All right.
Right.
So that was a true experience from Joyce. Likewise, many people have become victim of this scam in many peculiar way, from bank, loans, these asking them to pay up, online orders, and so on. The problem is, most of these people who who had become a victim of scam are either young or senior citizen.
Yeah.
That in the physical scam, there are also institution like charity,
Yes. Yeah.
collection of fund,
Yeah.
right? I'm doing this money, I want so much money for this organization, right? There are a lot of fraud in that particular area too, which you have to be very, very careful as to the money that you are giving, whether it's going to that institution or not. If you have a slightest doubt, I will urge you to call the organization. I have this person, is he authorized to collect money for you, for the organization? All right? And most of these victims are young people who are gullible, and the other one is senior citizens who are again not too much of IT literate, but they have the money, right? So most of these people who are in the scam, they are very charismatic and their communication skill is very good. So they are able to induce or seduce the person to impart with the money in relation to the scam and the false promises they do.
On social media, there's this person. He says he wants to come to Singapore to work because he can't find a job back home then. So he wants to come over, but he wants me to help to purchase the air ticket for them, so that once he come over here, he get a job, he'll pay back. So he asked me to transfer $3,000 to him. So being naive then, many years back then, I was young then. So I actually went to Western Union I wanted to transfer the 3,000 to him. So when I wrote in the account number and the account number, the guy over the counter told me, oh, this is a scammer account, so I'm not going to deposit for you. Oh, that was when there was a wake-up call, no? So I quickly left the place and told myself, no more social media, any contacts or whatever for me anymore, and no more.
So, based on your encounter, is the extent of the scammer's charisma is really it can be overwhelming.
Yes, it's very overwhelming.
Just to add on to that, how did you met this person?
Social media online.
Social media online.
Yes.
You have not met the person in person, right? Okay.
No. Yes.
Right. So this is where the charismatic and the manipulative factor comes into the play, where she was manipulated and she was emotionally blackmailed.
Yes.
Where a soft part, because we Asians in general, and in particular Indian, Chinese and all, we are very emotional people, and especially if it involves family members, right? Mother, father and all.
We know that anyone can fall prey to scams, but there are some factors of the victim demographic that make certain people more susceptible to scams. For example, age and any predisposed conditions. When age is involved, the elderly is mainly targeted due to their negligence of technology, and they are more gullible to interact when a monetary benefit is involved. What is your opinion on this? Okay.
For the senior citizens, it's quite obvious that they have accumulated a bulk of money, because when they are senior in their late 60s or 70, all their savings, CPF, etc., they are able to take out from the government fund and make use of it at their own whims and fancy. So this lump sum money that they have make them very, very vulnerable, and they are subject to be manipulated. And some of them don't have established family. When a senior citizen is in a family, right, there is a kind of protection from the family to safeguard the accumulated fund that he has saved till that time, right? And if he's alone, it is left to his own whims and fancy. So if a person is gullible, he's senior citizen, and the scammer who is very highly intelligent, I wouldn't say intelligent, highly manipulative, right? Highly manipulative, and he may have some charismatic, uh, physical, whatever it may be, right? And he's able to impress with his conversation, and he is able to induce them to impart with the fund towards the scam they are planning. So that is why most of the scam victims are senior citizen, younger generation, youngsters not so much, because they may be graduate, they may be this, right? But they don't have that bulk money with them. They are in the process of accumulation.
Right. So what mainly makes the elderly more gullible, more susceptible is
There are various reasons, like in
they're
Singapore.
very vulnerable. They don't have a pre-existing family members. And
So-
also the lump sum of money.
Okay, correct. Beautiful. Good question. You see, in Singapore context, I can talk about Singapore, right? Just take for me, right? I'm 73, and people of my generation goes back to the 50s and 60s and 70s, where Singapore was not developed. It was developing. At one time, we were part of Malaysia, then we came off from Malaysia, and we were left alone to survive. Yes, we have survived. In this survival, right, the changes were so fast that the generation of 50s and 60s, 70s are not able to adapt. Or there are people who are able to adapt, but not everybody is able to adapt to that level, or they are able to adapt to some level, right? But not thoroughly, especially now the society has a lot of information technology. Everything is through technology, even to the collection. Like simply, I renewed my passport. I did it from my home. Then I collected from the post office, right? And of course, my children help me. But those people who don't have children, then what happens if they want to renew? Either they are physically involved, or they meet into some scammer who may manipulate them and may not cheat them too much, but say, oh, I need $100 to do this and do this and do this. Don't worry, your passport, you will get it. Right? So these are opportunities that the information technology, right, is getting rid of for the scammer to mislead the senior citizen. On the other hand, the senior citizen by nature, I don't know why. Even myself, I'm computer literate to a certain extent, but I'm quite shy of using the computer. I don't know. I know it is very helpful, very this, very that. But I find that it's kind of like a phobia. You know,
So you would say that
younger generation, youngsters, not so much, because they may be graduate, they may be this, right? But they don't have that bulk money with them. They're in the process of accumulation.
correct. So what mainly makes the elderly more gullible, more susceptible is
There are various
that
reasons, like in
they're very
Singapore.
vulnerable and they don't have a pre-existing family members. And
So-
also, the lump
On the other hand, the senior citizen by nature, I don't know why. Even myself, I'm computer literate to a certain extent, but I'm quite shy of using the computer. I don't know. I know is very helpful, very this, very that. But I find that it's kind of like a phobia, you know.
So you would say like IT familiarity is a very important factor
Yes.
in dealing with scams.
Right. Yes. To be familiar with IT is very important, and I think our government has some fund given to us, and I myself have attended few worksheet, few courses with many institutions about in relation to computer. So I have slight knowledge, but the fact that I'm not practicing, right, over time I forget. The knowledge is lost. Just like you learn a Mandarin, but if you don't use Mandarin, you are forgotten.
Yeah, I think they should look out for messages or requests for them to access their personal information and their bank accounts. And then they should also know that genuine organization would never ask them for information through text or through the phone. Yes.
I think for the young victim, I will only say that the young victim, I assume they are IT literate, and they should be able to use their so-called cow sense, right? And in any scam situation, the source of your funds should not be revealed. That is, either your POSB number, account number, or your bank account number, or any information that may divulge or lead to the other guy manipulating and extracting money from your fund. And once such questions are asked, you must become alert and, if possible, terminate the conversation with that person.
Okay, so we have covered on the topic of crimes and scams today, and we have had a lot of valuable takeaways that we as a nation and public can actually learn from. And we covered many points as well. So how do scams actually form, such as their physical or online forms, and how do you actually be wary of them as a target audience? So if you're an elderly or even a youngster, you should be aware of scams because they do not discriminate as well. Also, furthermore, we touched on the stereotypical behaviors that scammers adopt in the execution of these scams. And also, upon that topic, we also touched on the nature of these behaviors, such as the learned or the natural responses of these scammers, and how we as the public can also easily fall prey to these scams, and how we can adopt preventative measures to not be easily manipulated by these behavioral cues. We would like to thank Uncle Jai and Joyce for coming on to this show to discuss on the topic of scams.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time and effort to join us on this dialogue session and providing your opinions and personal stories on the topic of scams as well.
You're welcome.
So moving forward, we will be having shared public talks on scams by our team of experts and also police officials. We will be sharing a link to the said information, so please feel free to click on it if your interest is expressed. If you have any thoughts or opinions on our topic of scams today in this dialogue session, please feel free to leave comments under the hashtag Crimes Sandbox on any social media platform. Thank you.